We all know certain jobs just scream man's world, right? Or woman's work.
Yeah.
Like picture a construction worker.
Right.
Versus like a kindergarten teacher.
Yeah.
Total cliche, but I feel like cliches come from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So in this deep dive, we're going to figure out WHY those stereotypes are so stubborn.
Okay.
Especially in the workforce. We've got data on gender concentration in different jobs.
Okay.
And we're going to be looking at the social and cultural forces at play, too.
And while it might seem like male-dominated and female-dominated are just two sides of the same coin, the numbers tell a more complex story.
In the data skies, we take our flight. Trends and numbers come to life. Colors and charts, they dance and play. Showing truth in a visual way. In GenderDecoded, we uncover truths and stories like no other. In the data waves we find the secret maps of humankind.
For this deep dive, we got some research, and it digs into why those divides are so, I don't know, like persistent. It's not just random chance, right?
Oh, very not.
And the thing that really jumped out at me was this. It seems like it's harder for women to break into those, like, guy jobs than the other way around.
Yeah, it's a really interesting asymmetry.
So why do you think that is? What's going on there?
Well, first off, it's important to grasp just how extreme this split is in some professions. It's not just a slight imbalance. It's like, whoa. I mean, look at the numbers, right? The research shows that concrete workers are, get this, like 99.3% male.
Wow.
And then on the flip side, kindergarten teachers are 97.7% female.
It's crazy. I mean, those numbers are, it's like they're stuck in time or something.
It's true. It hasn't changed a whole lot in decades, which is pretty wild when you think about all the progress we've supposedly made.
Right. It's like we've got all these men at work signs in our heads, even if they're not out there on the street anymore. So is this all because we still have these, like, old-fashioned ideas about women's work and men's work? Like, are we just stuck in the past?
I think those traditional gender roles are a huge factor, absolutely. Think about how we raise kids, like how toys, our marketed boys get the construction sets and tools, girls get the dolls and, the pink stuff.
Yeah.
And that's not an accident, right? Those messages, they're everywhere, and we see them over and over, and they really do stick with us, even if we don't realize it.
It's true.
It's not just toys. It's the media, too, right? What we see in movies and TV shows and what we see our parents doing, it all adds up to this idea of what's appropriate for men and women to do.
Okay, so these expectations are, like, baked in from childhood. But doesn't that make it harder to close the wage gap, too?
Absolutely.
I mean, if you think about it, those what we call guy jobs, like oil rigging or construction, they tend to pay a lot more than, say, teaching or nursing.
You're hitting a crucial point there. The wage gap is super complicated with a lot of factors feeding into it, but this occupational segregation, the fact that entire industries are mostly one gender, it definitely plays a role.
Right, like women are kind of steered towards those lower paying fields, often without even realizing it's happening.
Exactly. It's often not a conscious choice. It's just what seems normal or expected.
And then on top of all that, the research we've got points out it's even tougher for women to break into those, like, better paying fields. So is that just bias? Or is there something more going on?
Well, bias is definitely a part of it. Imagine you're a woman trying to, let's say, get into construction.
Okay.
And you walk onto a site and everyone is a man, right? You're already starting at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
There's likely implicit bias at play, those unconscious assumptions about who's right for the job.
That gut feeling that people have.
Exactly. And on top of that, there's often a lack of female mentors or role models in those fields. So it's harder to see yourself succeeding and harder to get the support you need to climb the ladder.
So it's this, like, double whammy. Right.
Pretty much. It's like you're fighting against these invisible forces.
So we've got these expectations starting early on, pushing men and women down different career paths.
Yeah.
And then when women try to break out of those paths, they hit a wall even harder than if men try to do the same thing. It's a mess. What do we even do about it?
It's definitely complex, no easy answers here, but the good news is more and more people are becoming aware of this problem, and that's the first step, right? Some companies are actually taking concrete steps to overcome bias in their hiring and to create more supportive environments for women in male-dominated roles.
Yeah, that's great.
And I think that's key. It can't just be about individuals trying to make different choices. It has to be a systemic change.
Yeah, it's got to be bigger than just one person.
Exactly.
So to recap, it seems like those old ideas about gender roles, they're still having a huge impact on what careers people choose.
Yeah, it's like they're lingering in the air.
And that's part of why the wage gap is so hard to close. And then to make things worse, there are all these extra hurdles for women trying to break into those, what we've been calling male-dominated fields.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes you think, right?
It does.
If it's this ingrained, how do we actually start to shift things? Is it about, I don't know, changing how we raise kids? Or is it about tackling bias head on when we're hiring?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's got to be all of the above working together.
Yeah, it's a puzzle with lots of pieces.
It really is something to think about.
It is. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Hopefully it's given you some new insights and inspired you to take action. Remember, change is possible when we all commit to doing our part.